My name is Angelina Wilson, and this is KidMissing TV. About 10 years ago, I began a website called KidMissing for missing and exploited children. It became my passion because of the case of Sarah Pryor from Wayland, Massachusetts, who went missing in 1985 and whose partial skull was found in 1998. That makes a big impression on a young child, as I was. I was 11, she was 9. I'm going to be showing you pictures of other children who are still unfortunately missing, whose parents and families don't have answers. I'm also going to be speaking with a police officer who's going to give you tips on how to keep your children safe, or at least try to keep your children a little bit safer. The first child who you see on your screen is Nelita de Jesus del Valle. Nelita was 9 years old when she was abducted from Boston, Massachusetts, on her 1.25 mile walk to Blackstone Elementary School on Shawmut Street. The very last thing known was her hat and mittens were given to a lady for her own daughter. Unfortunately, that's all that is known about Nelita's case. It's unfortunate because Nelita was taken December 20th, 1976. Lee Francis Savoy, an adorable little boy, tiny 10-year-old, 4'4", 60 pounds. He went missing on April 7th, 1974. He was a shoeshine boy at the Suffolk Downs racetrack in Revere, Massachusetts. He stopped at a diner to eat on his way to the racetrack. He left his shoeshine kit with the owner while he went outside to speak with someone. The owner didn't see the person, and Lee never returned. His shoeshine kit was returned to his mother when she came looking for him, and that's all that's ever been found of Lee. A few years ago, the Suffolk County DA, Daniel Connolly, offered a $5,000 reward in this case, and also had an age progression that you see on the screen created to help garner new leads. No new leads have been garnered at this point. Andrew Amato. This is a case that many of you are probably familiar with because it happened in Webster. On September 30th, 1978, Andrew went missing. He was 4 years old. He was walking a wooded path near his family's trailer park, and this path led to Route 52, which is now gone. It's now Route 395. So anybody could have taken him and easily gotten away to either Connecticut or Rhode Island. Someone confessed many years later as he was dying, and they have searched along a several-mile stretch of power lines in Burrillville, Rhode Island, which is just 10 miles away from Webster, and have come up with nothing. The man's name has not been released so as to protect his family, who are innocent. Police are still investigating this case. They still want answers, and so do his parents. You can call for any of these cases 1-800-THE-LOST, or in this case, you can call Detective James Hoover of the Webster Police Department at 1-508-943-1212 and ask for Detective James Hoover. The next case is that of Kathy Malcolmson. Kathy was 16 years old when she disappeared on August 13th, 1985. It took them 2 years to find her bicycle thrown in the woods along Glendale Road in Hudson. She was from Hudson. She was traveling to her job as a cashier in Stowe, the neighboring town. She never made it. She was last seen carrying a gray pocketbook, wearing sneakers, a short-sleeved striped shirt, which was probably her work shirt. Her case is believed to be linked to that of Sarah Pryor, who I mentioned to you in our introduction. They believe that John Werde, a convicted child killer, who is in a Texas prison now, is responsible for both her disappearance and the disappearance and homicide of Sarah Pryor. Sarah's family has done everything they can each time he's come up for parole to see that he does not ever step foot out of a Texas prison, because they'll never get justice for their daughter. The next case I'd like to talk to you about is a little sadder. James Jamie Lusher, Jr. Jamie is a handicapped little boy that disappeared on November 6, 1992 from Westfield, Massachusetts. He was a special ed student in Westfield. He had the mental capacity of a 12-year-old. Supposedly 2 days after he disappeared, a server at a friendly's restaurant in the town claimed to have seen him there. A hunter discovered his bicycle several days later on November 11th in the woods. Authorities drained the pond, which was in that wooded area, and didn't come up with any further clues in the case. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
We're here to ask you questions about, if you'll excuse me, child safety. What advice can you give parents for keeping their children safe?
Keeping them safe? The best thing to do is just be a good parent to them. Have an open dialogue with them. Make sure your parents make sure the children can trust coming to you with any kind of information that they have. That's my best one advice I can give. The best one.
What advice would you give to parents to teach their children about, without scaring their children, what we used to call stranger danger, but really a lot of the people taking kids now are people the kids know. How do you teach them about, how do you have parents teach them about that without scaring the children?
Yeah, that's really tough because there's definitely a lot of scary stuff that happens out there to kids and young adults. I'd say, make sure that they're age appropriate to talk to them about the information, but you also want to get it to them sooner than later. Absolutely. Because they take in a lot of information when they're young, so the sooner you can get the information to them, they'll know it, they'll understand it, and they'll start to grasp it as they get older and understand it more.
When I was a little girl, one of the things that we did, that we were taught to do, aside from obviously the buddy system, was to have a code word. So even if it was someone you knew, if they didn't know that word, they couldn't tell you your mommy's hurt, your daddy's hurt, etc., and make you go with them if they didn't know that word. My word was elephant. Would you recommend that?
I never did that when I was a kid, but I guess that would be a good thing. You as a parent, you can get to know your neighbors, people, coaches, and whatnot, and maybe tell them, hey, she's been learned to know this word. So strangers, they wouldn't know that word. So that is a good idea. I never used that. I was never taught that role, but that would absolutely work still in these days and age.
I have this here, which you will see on the screen. He'll put it up. That was done actually 30 years ago, probably before you were born, here in Douglas. And it's a picture, and it has my information and my fingerprints. Does Douglas still do this today, or do you know where a kid could have this done today? Because this could be vital information if a kid disappears.
Absolutely.
If you want to look, I don't know.
Yeah, we do not do this anymore in Douglas because it's like a new modern equipment. They would take the picture, scan it, and it would all just be one piece of information that you pass off. But there is a lot of other resources available that would do something like this. One of them I know is the Molly Bish Foundation. If there's any kind of safety events in town, which I believe that they're at the Oktoberfest. I'm not positive, Even if they're not there, the Masons, Freemasons, also have something like this too that they do. So Molly Bish Foundation, Freemasons, any kind of safety events, most likely they would have something like this where you can do your fingerprints and picture. Another thing in today's technology that's ever growing, it's called an amber disc.
What is that?
It's basically a USB. It goes into a USB port. You would upload it, and put all your child's information on there, and you just keep it on with you. And should anything happen to your child, you can give it to any local police department. They just put it in their computer, and they'll have all that information. It's not free, but it is available online.
Well, you could do that with a regular USB thumb drive too.
Yeah, you can make up your own. You know, the only thing is you just don't have the fingerprints done, but you can easily just make up fingerprints and make up your own sheet on Word or PowerPoint, anything like that too.
And many parents today are either taking their child's hair or a buccal swab and saving DNA like in a baggie.
I have heard of that. You'll just have to worry about preserving it, making sure it's fine. That's probably something you'll end up seeing more of in the future. But fingerprints, and the important thing to do is also keep an up-to-date picture of your child available on you. Or another thing too is know what your child left wearing. That's a big. We like to know like clothing description, height, weight, all that. And so if you know what they were wearing when they left the house, it's going to make it easier for a police officer to locate them should they be missing at all.
Now, do the fingerprints change or do the hands just grow?
I'm not a fingerprint expert, but I do believe that they would just grow as your fingers grow. So when they do look for fingerprints, it's like distinctive crossings, marks on your print that they would notice, and they can relate that to any kind of fingerprint that they come across as well.
Great. Let's see. I don't think I have any more questions. Thank you so much for doing this. I know it's a little uncomfortable for you. I appreciate your help, and I'm sure the people of town will appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Officer Schultzberg.
All right.
I would like to thank you for joining me. I hope your eyes were opened today about this subject. This is not a new phenomenon. It's just that we have so much more news available to us, 24/7 news, internet, so we hear about it more. If you go back in time, you will see that it has happened. The first child ever taken for ransom was taken in the late 1800s. His name was Charlie Ross. And he was never found. But that's just an example that it's been happening throughout the generations. I have cases on my website that go back, that far into the 20s. But I would like to take this moment to thank the people that made this possible. I'd like to thank the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for the posters. And again, 1-800-THE-LOST is their phone number. You can remain anonymous. I'd like to thank Detective James Hoover of the Webster Police Department for giving me the information that I relayed to you. I would like to thank my friends and fellow volunteers at Lost and Missing Incorporated for making the poster for Andrew Amato and for their support. I would like to thank the Douglas Police Department for allowing one of their officers to come and speak with us. I'd like to thank the Douglas Cable Board and Pat Aldrich for the opportunity and for his time and dedication to this project. Lastly, I would like to thank my parents for their time, gas, and support for this project. Good night, and may God bless you.